Football can be a violent sport. You never know when you're going to be blindsided. It's important to be safe. It's important to keep those
You doing that look?
Hey, man.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Some of the feedback was good.
Some of it's contrived.
You made a very good point that one is. Yeah. I do. I make sure I answer everyone you
I'm
send me.
smiling for real. My eyes get kind of squinty and all.
I think about that.
I think you said as soon as it was available for being able to record, we were to do it. I think that's what you said.
Just because
And I'm not sure.
it was a second, and it,
Okay.
well taken, a point well
Either.
taken.
Okay, can you give me that citation so I could just kind of... Where is compatriot at?
One of the ones I haven't seen up
Yeah, I'll just copy and paste. Thanks.
there.
Right.
When you have time, I'll tell you what happened.
Or I can dot by reference.
Karen Lamberton, MPO administrator.
Tourism Commission, and I finally saw this string because I couldn't get into it because my computer was. The thread.
I took her, when she came in the other day for her first meeting with me, I took her around and
Council, and I can
introduced her to all the support staff that she's going to be getting support from the MPO for, so. I don't know, we'll see.
That was actually good.
Yeah, she's going to introduce herself tonight.
I did finally see that.
You've been here a while.
Yeah.
Okay, Cloud9 sign.
Yeah.
It's in the right. Get a chance to smile.
Is it?
And I don't have any record.
Needs a practice.
Maintenance agreement. Any document that says ownership is assigned.
I don't know, you need to ask,
The right away. ADOT right away?
No.
if there's a special area, ask,
in the
Lower.
grass,
or
right there in the middle.
Gwen, don't listen to Craig.
Pull right there in front of the stage and park.
Yeah. They'll understand you're on council. Just tell me on council.
They'll
We'll be okay.
understand it was me.
That's a good question. I think it's behind the little back area. I think that's
On the
typically
stage.
where they have us. Yes.
Can't you all just park where everyone else does?
Well, that's what I do.
Good
Good evening, everybody. I call to order the regular city council meeting for September 13th for the Sierra Vista City Council. We'll start tonight, as we always do, with a roll call. Mrs. Adams.
Mayor Rick Mueller,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alicia Ash,
Present.
Councilmember Bob Blanchard,
Here.
Councilmember Gwen Calhoun,
Present.
Councilmember Rachel Gray,
Present.
Councilmember Craig Mount,
Here.
Councilmember Christine Wolf.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. We'll go on to the invocation and the pledge. Tonight, the invocation will be led by the Reverend Father Adele McCune, Anglican Catholic Church of St. John the Divine, and will be followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Blanchard. Would you please rise?
It's your custom. Will you please bow your heads with me in a moment of prayer? Many and abundant blessings in our lives. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of our city. We pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. Grant them wisdom to govern justly, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and the personal peace to leave this meeting today knowing that that what they do here is both important and appreciated. We pray for the agenda set before them today, that their decisions today will benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city. Remind these people who you have entrusted, that they are stewards of your creation. We ask this, O Father, in your name, in the name of your Son, in the name of your Holy Spirit.
To the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you, Father, and thank you, Mr. Blanchard. We now move to the
Mr. Mayor, I move 2018 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, deletions, corrections? For the question, all those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Cities and meeting in Phoenix, we had 3 people recognized for their service to the community. We had Mrs. Calhoun received an award for 8 years. I received an award for 16 years. And it's my honor and privilege as a member of the executive board of the league to present a 20-year plaque, Mr. Robert Blanchard.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome, Bob. Well deserved. Next up, we have the city manager's report. Mr. Patuchik.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. A brief report tonight. Our next regularly scheduled work session is scheduled for September 25th, 3 p.m., and that will be here in the council chambers. And then one project of interest, the bid closed August 24th with 2 responses on the Charleston Road Wall project. After reviewing the bids, the contract was awarded to Marsh Development in the amount of $205,271. And the project is to be completed within 120 days of that point. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll see that one finished. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Any questions for Mr. Patuchik on his report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 2. Ms. Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the consent agenda consisting of the City Council meeting minutes of August 9th, 2018, and Resolution 2018-065, acceptance of public improvements for the Chaparral Village North Phase 6D subdivision, lots 509 to 539 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move into the public hearing section of the meeting tonight. Mr. Mount, may we have item 2, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2018-066, a new Series 12 liquor license application for a limited liability type of ownership for Andrea Dahlman Lukowitz on behalf of Mod Superfast Pizza LLC, DBA Mod Pizza, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Adams, may we have the staff report, please?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, as the motion stated, this is an application for a new Series 12 liquor license, which is a restaurant liquor license for Mod Pizza that is going to be located in front of the Target Shopping Center on Highway 90. The notice of this public hearing was posted on the premise, and to date, no comments pro or con have been received regarding this liquor license. A background check was performed by the police department, and they have no objection to this license moving forward. And if approved tonight, it will be forwarded up to the State Liquor Board for final approval.
Any comments or questions from the council?
I do have a question. As many times as I've heard you do this report, I've never thought to ask you, how do people know that there's something posted on the building?
Mayor Mueller, Councilmember Calhoun, we actually go out and post a ledger-sized notice that is now posted in bright neon green.
Oh.
So it draws attention to it. If it's an existing business, it's usually at or near the front door. I believe we had to post it on the fence on this one because of the construction zone, but we make it as clearly posted as we possibly can.
I see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to make a general comment, too, and this is primarily for our reporter from the Herald that's in the audience. One of the questions I've been getting on a regular basis for the last 6 months is what the heck is going in front of Target? Now it's the Mod Superfast Pizzas. A lot of people want to know that, so that may be something you want to mention in your report today. Okay, so I'll call for the question if there's no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We go on to item number
4.
Yeah, my numbers are faded here. Item number 4, Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2018-067, a Series 12 license application for an agent change and acquisition of control for John D. Curtis II on behalf of Blazing Wings Incorporated, doing business as Buffalo Wild Wings, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Adams, may we have the staff report, please?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, this application comes as a result of corporate restructuring and that type of thing. It's an administrative action mostly. The same rules apply. However, the notice of the public hearing was posted on the facility and no comments have been received. The new individuals involved have been background checked by the police, and they have no objection to the license moving forward. And if approved tonight, it will be returned to the state with a recommendation of approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. Any questions for Mrs. Adams on this item? No further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Adams. We now move on to item number 5, Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2018-068, submission of the U.S. Housing and Urban Development 2017 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. McLaughlin, may we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report before you is a review of our performance outcomes carrying out the block grant projects and activities during the 2017 program year. We have until the end of this month to submit our report to HUD for review and acceptance, following the required public comment and hearing. The hearing was advertised as required in the Sierra Vista Herald and on the city's website, and the meeting was posted at our public facilities. No comments have been received to date. As documented in our report, the city expended $230,788 during the program year. Approximately $135,000 were for the solar streetlight project. $49,000 went to the emergency home repairs. $1,000 for the percolation test. $1,000 for Fry and Sullivan neighborhoods, assisted 1,445 persons based on the census data. 9 applications for the emergency home repairs have been funded, with 7 being completed during the 17 program year. The after-school program scholarships benefited 35 at-youth low-income households. We completed the environmental review record for the Timothy Lane improvements involving repaving and installing a curb along the alleyway between First and North 2nd Street, as well as curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements along the west side of North 5th Street, just south of Denman. These projects account for the city engineers are in the process of preparing design and construction documents for procurement to go out to bid in January of next year, with construction to be completed by no later than June 30th. Allowable time frame. I just want to thank Yolanda Vasquez, who was very instrumental in
Thank you for recognizing. She does a great job. Seeing none, I will go to the council. Council, do we have any further questions or discussions for Mr. McLaughlin? No. Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Mrs. Gray.
Mayor, I move ordinance -011, amending Chapter 36, meeting dates of the City Code of Ordinances, to state that the Planning and Zoning Commission shall meet on an as-needed basis or as called by the chair be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Pregler, may we have staff report, please?
Yes, you can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. According to City Code Chapter 36, the Planning and Zoning Commission is required to meet on the first and third Tuesday of every month. Staff is recommending that this be changed, and that the language state that the meetings will take place on an as-needed basis or as called by the chair. The reason for the change is because over the past few years, meetings have been chronically canceled due to lack of business. Further, there have been occasional conflicts with the commission meetings and city council work sessions on certain. Therefore, the proposed language provides staff with scheduling flexibility. The city will notify the commission members of the meeting well in advance, and also will notify the public through the city website, newspaper notices, mailings, and signage at least 15 days before meetings or as required by law. Now, the Planning and Zoning Commission considered the proposed amendment at their meeting on July 17th and recommended the change be made. Staff will notify the Commission of current development projects by emailing the executive report on a monthly basis. And this does conclude staff's report.
Thank you, Mr. Pregler. This is also a public hearing item. I do not have anybody that's requested to address us on this item. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address us on this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the meeting to the public and ask for council for comments and questions.
Okay. I do have a question. Jeff, you mentioned that if there's a need for a meeting, the staff would notify the commission about if something's going to be built. Mightn't they come up with other reasons to meet? Might they have other reasons to meet, in which case their chair or might say, we want to have a meeting, and then the public would that also require the 15 days and so on and so forth?
Mayor Mueller, Councilmember Calhoun, that is correct. We'll notify all members of the public of any item on the agenda. If it's a public hearing item, it requires at least 15 days prior to the hearing. If it's a work session item, we also have to notify at least a week before the hearing. So the public will be notified.
So it wouldn't necessarily be if something's being built. There could be many other reasons why planning and zoning.
That's correct. Any item on the agenda would be noticed.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I just want to clarify, there seemed to be some confusion about this on Tuesday from some members in the public. Is this only applies to the Planning and Zoning Commission, none of the other commissions that this applies to?
Correct.
So.
The response was that's correct. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. We now move on.
Thank you. Resolution 2018-069, donation of equipment to Cochise College in support of Southeastern Arizona Law Enforcement Training Academy be approved.
Second.
Recently, Cochise College received the Standards and Training Board to open at Cochise down on the Douglas campus. As such, as they start this process to help train the recruits. The academy is exciting for us down here in this area, especially for the fact that it will save us a whole lot of money in training funds, considering that other academies are now charging a significant amount to go to the academy. We are also partnering with them, providing instructors for this academy, so we'll be able to help train local officers in our ways of doing business. So the city has a surplus 2006 Crown Victoria vehicle and 8 portable radios that we are asking to donate to the college for the use of driver's training and field problems. In the audience today, we have the director of the academy, Tim Seguin. We'll be happy to answer any questions for you at this time.
Thank you, Chief, and thanks for being here tonight, Mr. Seguin. We have one member, even though this is not a public hearing item, we have one member of the public that would like to address us on this item, Mr. DiCarlo. And you've been up here before, you know the 5 minutes and the rules.
Sure, that's right.
So I'm not going to bore you.
No worries. First off, thank you very much, council, staff, and the folks that are here. Appreciate you being here. This will be the last time I address you until after the elections in November. I'm a candidate for the United States Senate. And I have no problem, Chief, with donating the vehicle and the radios only because they were not purchased with Operation Stone Garden funds. Okay? But I think that there may be a better way of doing business here. We seem to be donating a lot of equipment, time, and energy to the education of our youth and our young adults in this community. I think it may be time for the city to recoup just a little bit. There's nothing that keeps us from submitting to our insurance company to have the design specifications drawn for the fire department's exhaust system it wants to pay us to pay $65,000. Why can't we make this a condition of part of our intergovernmental agreement to have the college design and manufacture and install the ventilation systems that the fire department would like to have? I think that's a pretty fair trade-off there. That way we're educating our youth for the future, and we're actually getting something now for us, so we're not passing the burden on to the citizens. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. DiCarlo. Any comments or questions for Chief Thrasher from the council?
I just have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
This isn't in relation, Chief, to the equipment, just about the training academy. We are still CLIA certified, correct?
Yes, we are.
And this training falls within that, and will.
It falls within the state requirement. CLIA does not dictate the type of training for each agency. So.
Okay.
But if this falls within the state requirement as required by the Peace Officer Standards and Training Board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good question. Anything else? All right, then we'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Chief Thrasher. We now move on to item number 8. Ms. Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2018-070, replacing Resolution 2018-041 by using the updated language provided by the Federal Transit Administration and the filing of applications with the Federal Transit Administration for federal transportation assistance be approved.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Lazar, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this agenda item goes hand in hand with one approved by council in May, which authorized the city attorney to file Federal Transit Administration grant applications on behalf of the city. The FTA recently provided updated language to staff for this year's grant application. In short, the updated language now grants signatory authority to both the city attorney and the Public Works Operations Manager. Both parties have traditionally signed the grant applications, so the updated change is an administrative rather than a procedural change. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Lazar. Questions for Mrs. Lazar? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Lazar. We next move on to item number 9, Mr. Mount.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2018-071, an intergovernmental agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation to approve the exchange of HERF funds to design and construct improvements for North Garden Avenue and Fry Boulevard be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Lazar, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this agenda item would establish an intergovernmental agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation to provide funding for planned improvements along Fry Boulevard and North Garden. A conceptual design was completed through the SVMPO a few years ago, but there was no dedicated funding at that time to move the project forward to final design or construction. However, ADOT recently reinitiated what is known as the HERF Exchange program. The HERF Exchange gives local governments the opportunity to exchange hard-to-use federal transportation dollars for state money. In short, the HERF Exchange program takes money which already would have been allocated to the city for transportation projects and makes it usable for a wider range of projects with less strings attached. The Fry and North Garden project meets the program criteria and was also prioritized by council during its strategic planning process. Under this IGA, design would take place during fiscal year 19, and the first phase of construction would commence in fiscal year 20. Although the initial IGA had construction listed in fiscal year 21, an updated version sent out earlier this week shows the correct date of 2020. Future phases would be contingent on available funding. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Lazar. We have one member of the public that would like to address us on this item. Mr. Newcomb.
Good afternoon. I've been here a long time, and that used to be the only way into Sierra Vista from the north, unless you went to Cayetano. And when you approved that project for that big office building, they did not have adequate parking in there. And this seems a little bit shady that, you know, that you're going to do this. They didn't get that other property next to there because I guess they wanted too much money. But next to that is that communications center there. And with the main gate not as busy as it used to be, I would imagine that they probably need some protection for that, so no one can get inside there and do anything, because we are in a military community and it is vital that we keep the communications sound and secure. We have a lot of people in this town who are rather incompetent. It can numb you to know that there are people who are immature and that there are people who can hide in there amongst those sheep. and get into that building. So, whether Garden Avenue thing, is honest or not, if you're giving a good deal to this man who somehow came up with this money, doesn't matter. It's a communication center that needs protection so that someone can move in, can lease that place and watch that place, because it's vital. This is in the West End. Now, I would like to talk to the citizens about something that they may not know could possibly be going on that is vital to family life. They have license plates that have all the letters and numbers are raised up. You can take, I think, radars and bounce them off of there and get the license plate number of whoever's driving that. But now that there are pixels involved and televisions and stuff, I think it's possible to take a light picture, and because it's raised up, the pigments of the coloring will be strong toward the center, and as it goes down off that hill, into the plate, the bounce back of light is dimmer. It is very possible that when some of your boys are driving around RGIs, that people can get their license plate number just with the camera and put it into a computer system, and then the girls at home know who's driving the car, and they can drum up a picture of that and say, that looks pretty tasty, And so when he's driving around the neighborhood, she's got a little red light in the window. Now, you remember Ethel Berger, and she said this at a city council meeting. She wanted to thank the people for running the red lights in this town. So this is city council business that I'm talking about. Now, once she has put on the red light, all he has to do is GPS to know who's living in that house and go up to the door and knock and say, is Sweetie Pie here? And she will say that she met him at a job or at a movie or something like this. I think that you might find that turning Fry Boulevard west of 7th Street and turning Garden Avenue into a single lane also, single lane both ways, might be able to help you protect your children and to know that your daughter, her money is her money and not something she got somewhere else. Her brothers can know that how she got her money. So this Garden Avenue thing, is shady in one way, is shady in another. But, if you restrict this traffic circulation in the neighborhoods, you might be able to have a little more domestic tranquility, because our soldiers will be able to explain, like John McCain was complaining about applying for food stamps,
Your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks.
Okay. The soldier can explain that his money is gone because he gave it all away to the domestic enemies, foreign and domestic. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Newcomb. We now go back to any questions for Ms. Flassar for discussion.
The floor is yours.
So no, seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move up to item number 10, Mr. Blanchard.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance 2018-012, revising Chapter 94 of the City Code of Ordinances concerning parks and recreation to allow surface metal detection in public parks be approved.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Wilson, may we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Last month, I presented a resolution requesting that council consider a code revision to allow surface-only metal detecting in city parks. The resolution was passed and the proposed language revisions were made available for public review and comment for a period of 30 days. The review period has concluded and the city has received 6 comments. 3 were in support of the ordinance changes as proposed. 1 was in support of the revision but supported digging in addition to the surface detection. 1 supported the revision but requested a permit process be added. And 1 was not in favor of the ordinance revision due to potential sprinkler head damage to the parks. The ordinance before you would revise the current city code language to allow for surface-only metal detecting in our public parks if passed. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Do we have any questions or discussion from Ms. Wilson? Yes.
I will ask one. I believe I did bring it up before. Should there be digging in the park, what did you say covers that? That would be considered a crime? How would that be handled?
It would be a violation of ordinances. People would call the police and they could be cited for ordinance violations. There's a separate ordinance that protects the parks from any digging, so we would be protected in that. And the proposed language absolutely prohibits digging with that as well. So it refers back to the original no digging rule.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a comment. Laura, I understand that this was a direct request from a citizen that you responded to. So I just want to say thank you for being responsive and listening to our citizens and to let people know that we do listen and changes do happen with requests from citizens in the city. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing nobody else, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll next move on to call to the public. We have a number of folks that want to address us tonight, and we'll start with Mr. Tom Reardon. And Tom, you know how this works.
Okay. Mayor Mueller, Mayor Pro Tem Ash, members of City Council, my name is Tom Reardon, and I'm the chair of the Cochise County Reentry Coalition. Our mission is to help organize a broad network of citizens and organizations to work to eliminate or minimize barriers that face citizens returning to our community from prison or jail. With this mission in mind, we come before you today to urge you to reconsider the site of the annual City of Sierra Vista Spotlight Breakfast. As you know, this event was recently held at the Thunder Mountain Activity Center, or the TMAC, on Fort Huachuca. Now, the TMAC is generally an excellent of Homeland Security. Force protection policies and federal law prohibit persons formally barred from gaining access to military installations to enter such an installation unless that bar is waived by the garrison commander. In most of these cases, the bar is triggered by a past felony conviction. Fort authorities from time to time allow essentially unfettered access to the fort by the public for attendance at special events. However, the information provided in writing to persons formally barred is clear. They are informed that Title 18 U.S. Code 1382 states in part that, quote, whoever re-enters or is found within any fort after having been removed therefrom or ordered not to re-enter shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 6 months or both, close quote. It is unclear if this periodic informal policy exception supersedes Section 1382 for persons who have actually been issued formal bar letters. Mr. Mayor, your quote in the 15 August edition of the Sierra Vista Herald described the attendees of the Spotlight Breakfast. How you did that was exactly right. You stated those who attended were, quote, people who are very interested in our community, who want to be involved and make things happen, close quote. And I can tell you that many in our population of returning citizens want to be involved and make things happen. This population came to the fore several months ago when we helped to conduct a civil rights restoration clinic here in Sierra Vista. Now, we expected 15 or 16 applicants, but at the end of the day, we had over 50. Unfortunately, our motivated citizens with past felony convictions who have been formally barred from entering Fort Huachuca may decide the risk too great to attend TMAC events, even under the periodic informal lessening of access controls. As a result, these citizens will lose out on the significant civic value gained from attending the Spotlight Breakfast if the TMAC remains a venue of choice. So in summation, the coalition strongly urges the relocation of the next Spotlight Breakfast to a venue not located on Fort Huachuca. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reardon. Obviously, that was an oversight on our part. Well, we'll take that into consideration before the next event. Thank you. Next up, we have Mrs. Lamberton.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor Mueller and members of the council. I wanted to just take this opportunity to introduce myself to you, or reintroduce myself. I know, Gwen. I've recently come on as your Sierra Vista Metropolitan Planning Organization Administrator. I don't even have a business card yet, but I'll get that over to you. But I'll be working in the regional government capacity with your council and your mayor and the citizens of this area, along with Cochise County and the town of Huachuca City, who are now within the expanded boundaries of that regional government. And so we'll be working on a few tasks with you. We work closely with the Public Works Department. There's a couple projects funded with those federal dollars. One of them is the North Garden project. There's some adaptive signal projects that we've been working on. Just about finished up with a pavement surface inventory, which is going to do a great job of being able to help prioritize and better, allocate funds for that. And so I just wanted to let you know that I'd come on board, was going to be available to help with different regional activities and convene the regional table when we've got things that spill over our boundaries. So looking forward to it, and we've been helping with the NAMI ride, so we're going to have that thing going. So thank you very much, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you and welcome. Glad you came tonight.
Thank you. Sure.
The last person that would like to address us tonight is Mr. Newcomb.
Good afternoon. Laura Wilson, there will be a request to you when I'm finished. Caravaggio in Napoli was really quite a painter. Really good at it. But one of the things that he did in there was that he would do images of prostitutes and street urchins in holy scenarios. And people were all upset about that. They thought it was a terrible thing to do. But in the eyes of God, everyone is equal. We are all created equal. So Caravaggio was quite a person. The reason why paintings would use rich people as their subjects is mostly because the rich would come up with the money for churches and stuff, projects and things like that. Now, if you were to have this money distributed equally around in America, not a thing would get done, except that landfill out there on 83 or 82 would get bigger, because Americans and poor people will not spend the money for the general welfare, but the rich people do. Now, here in our town, we have a superior court that is for divorce. A little town of ours has a superior court for divorce. Just like with the churches, when people would complain about who is it that the priest is talking to, the Masons, the ones who did the work, would say, we built this place, and so we tell you how it is. So when you get into a superior court with the marriage, the man comes home and says, I'm the breadwinner, and I tell you how it's going to be. Or the woman says, I am the mother of life, and I tell you how it's going to be. Here in our town, we are advised that 10,000 people have left our community, yet the tax revenues from the restaurants and the bars are going up. It's as though we told a lot of people to get out of here because we own the place. The numbers are there to tell you that we're having a party now, and it's real sad that you left, you know. But the numbers are there, you know. Jefferson Airplane, Grace Slick, and them, when they were going to the White House to meet President Nixon, they did some joking and stuff about putting some LSD into his coffee, or they were going to. Well, subsequently, in the years after that, they seemed to break up. And I think there may have been a campaign by people to break them up, you know, when they were only joking. And or maybe it was because of the type of music that they did. You know, music about caring about people. But they wanted to progress through time like time was progressing with technology and stuff. So they changed their name to Jefferson Starship. More members were forced out, more people were brought in. They got into an argument over intellectual property and identity theft, over what the name of the band was going to be and who was going to be in charge. You know? So the court said, and I believe wrongfully, that the new people and the new band own the name. That there's no one who owns the word Jefferson, there's no one who owns the word Starship. So everyone lost out on this. Ms. Wilson, I would hope that you could ask MWR upon the base to request Grace to be here to say it's okay, or Bill Graham to be here. Never mind the Tower of Power joke. He's not dead either. See, they used to be friends with the Grateful Dead. They're not dead either. So if it's at all possible, you know, that we don't lose our freedom of speech and when music does not suffer, that everyone understands we're all on the level, you know, if you could ask them to ask one or both of them to be there, it could be pretty darn nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Newcomb. We'll next move on to comments and requests for the council. Tonight we'll start with Mr. Blanchard. Bob? Thank you, Mr. Blanchard. Mrs. Cal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a simple comment to thank Karen Lamberton for attending our meeting and introducing herself. I really like knowing that she's with the city. I have had some past experiences working with her, and I like her can-do attitude and her very kind way of working through situations. Thank you, Father, too. I can't help but thank you for that very nice prayer. And also for staying through our meeting, too. Appreciate you being here. Michael and also Mr. Newcomb, thank you also, and Mr. Reardon. It's really nice having hearing from the public on a variety of issues to help us see things that may need some work in our community. And also, we don't mind if you come up there just to thank us and pray for us, too. So good to see everybody this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Calhoun. Mrs. Gray. Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Mr. Mount.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mr. Newcomb's point about the loss of population and the increase in revenue with the restaurant taxes, it is an interesting discussion point because it is something that we see, and I think it goes back to the shift in the market patterns for kind of discretionary spending when it comes to people eating out at restaurants that kind of cater to that, you know, serving alcoholic beverages and offering kind of a themed experience for the family. Something to look into. I think having the economic development director take a harder look at that with places like Mod Pizza coming in might be good for us to understand maybe a little bit further. Also, got invited to a meeting with Miss Jackie Clay to discuss technology advancements that will be coming out, or at least that she's trying to pursue. They had the regional I'm blanking out here right now. She's the Cochise County Superintendent. So they had the superintendent's meeting, and it was a really interesting piece of technology that they were showing off. They brought in a consultant who had developed an application that is really geared towards low, moderate income areas, and it's basically a application that all children before they get into school are able to access, or even while they're in school, and it allows for the illiteracy one. It was a fantastic demonstration that they showed off. So if she comes around, and if you're on council and you get an opportunity to see the application and see kind of the work that goes into that, I'd highly recommend it. It's fairly cool. Other than that, Mayor, I think that's what I got.
Thank you, Mr. Mount. I just want to say Jackie Clay's doing a great job, and any technology that we can help make our kids learn quicker and better is a big benefit for all of us in our future. Miss Wolf, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Councilmember Blanchard for your service that you have done. 20 years is quite a long time. I would say it's almost not as old as me, but that's clearly not true. I'm not Councilmember Ash. But seriously, thank you so much for your commitment, and that is something that not a lot of people can say.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Mayor Pro Tem Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say ditto to all the comments that came before mine. And I would like to publicly acknowledge the life and legacy of Senator John McCain, who, regardless of political party, I think we can say lived a life of service and truly did put country first.
Thank you, Ms. Ash. That's a very important sentiment. Father, I appreciate you staying, and I can't help but think that maybe this is the highest concentration of senators that are available right now, but I don't want to really say that publicly. We have more in church. Okay. All right, must be a good church. Oktoberfest starts tomorrow night at 5 o'clock and runs through the weekend. So please come down and enjoy the Papa Band and all the other activities going on in the park. Unfortunately, I also have a couple of sad announcements. I'm glad you mentioned about Senator McCain. I know we all will miss him, but we also have to note the passing of Huachuca City Mayor George Neron, who also passed away just recently. And if you knew George, he was kind of a character, but he had a good heart, and he was always interested in his community. We also lost from Bisbee Mayor Laverne Williams. She was known as the Hugging Mayor. Another great lady who was a good friend with Ethel Berger, and they were quite a pair when they got together, let me tell you. With that, I want to thank everybody for the meeting tonight. Staff, you did a great job. Council, great job too. Meeting's adjourned.
Wow. That was a little.
You had to really
catch
think
your breath.
about that one for a minute. Think, like, I don't know if they're doing well or not.